Okay, so it's a Saturday night and you are trying to order some food using an app, which is, let's say, Zomato or Swiggy, and all of a sudden you see on screen service not available or a technical error. What is exactly happening? So this is you, probably this is the app, and you are seeing the technical error. Now what's happening is that this application is basically somehow not working. Okay, there can be multiple reasons for this application not working, but it is related to something called as system design. Okay, which means there is some concept of system design which is responsible for this app to not work. Okay, now what is that? Well, that is what we are trying to understand, that what that system design, what that concept is basically. Okay, now it is very much possible that you are actually someone who handles this system design, or in some way or form you are actually dealing with this system design, and you are some kind of an IT person who is responsible to bring up this system, okay, in such a way that this technical error which was coming, it will go off and your app from not working will start working. Okay, so that is what we are trying to understand, the concept that what system design is. So let me give you an analogy. Basically, what I could start, let's say you want to start a business. Okay, and you want to start a small samosa shop in India. Okay, if you want to start a small samosa shop, you may need some set up some components involved in that samosa shop. Okay, let me just jot it down over here. You may need a stall, a table, you may need a gas stove, you may need a gas cylinder, maybe you may need the raw materials, right? And these are some of the components which are being used. Now all these components, I may just call them as a system. Okay, and of course you may need a worker, or maybe not a worker, maybe I'll say a cook, to cook the samosas and actually hand it over, or deliver to the customer, or give it to the customer, or serve to the customers. Okay, so now all these components, I'm calling it as a system. And once I set up these components, let's say this is my stall, this is my table, this is my cooking stove. Okay, this is the gas cylinder, and this is the guy who's working, and these are some of the customers who are actually coming, and this is your table basically, and you have somewhere your raw materials kept over here. Okay, so now when we are actually setting up this system, where we are placing this cylinder over here, connecting the cylinder cable, we are setting up the table over here, we are setting up the gas stove, we are then having the ingredients over here from where this guy is picking it up and then putting it up in the stove and cooking it, and then serving it to the customers in a kind of a plate or paper plate. Okay, this entire process, that means all these components, okay, all these components working together is called as a design. So the components, along with the functioning of the components, interacting with each other, is what is called as your system design. Okay, now I hope this definition is very simple, but and it is very clear. Now when it comes to basically when it comes to attaching this, or relating this with the actual IT system design, you can imagine that this part, okay, where you are actually serving the customers in the plate, the samosa, is called as a front end. Okay, and this entire part, okay, the setup, the stove, the gas cylinder, the person working, uh, the ingredients, the in fact the stall, the table, everything, basically this is like a back end. Okay, now you can relate this to your front end and back end. Always uh, the asset, or the interface which you're using as a customer, which is ideally in most cases the mobile application or the browser, is your front end. Okay, to imagine front end, it is very easy. Everybody uses the front end. You use a lot of apps such as your Swiggy, Zomato, Book My Show, mobile banking apps, entertainment apps, gaming apps. All these are acting as a front end, but there is a large back end which is working at the back end, working in the back, which is doing a lot of processing. You may feel that you are doing a lot of things on the front end, but actual stuff is happening at the back end. Okay, uh, now the backend will be, in our case, in our IT example, it will be a data center, and it will have a lot of servers, security devices, and applications, databases, etc. Now, how you set up these components? So I'm again coming back to the components. These are my front end components, these are my back end components. Okay, now how you set up these components to work together, that part of engineering, or that part of conceptualization, is called as system design. Okay, now just to give you a very simple example of a high level system design, I will quickly come back to the mobile app scenario, where you are basically you're a customer. Just one moment, I will change my pen. Okay, so you are a customer, you have your mobile app. Okay, in your mobile app, you are opening the app somehow, and what happens once you open the app actually tries to connect to a backend. Okay, now that backend, as I told you, okay, has a lot of infrastructure. Now when it connects to the backend, the first thing is that it's basically called some kind of a URL at the back, and this URL is basically pointing to a data center somehow. How it connects, how the URL works, how DNS works, we can actually learn in the upcoming videos of my series. Okay, so when it tries to connect to a URL, it will basically enter into the data center via a firewall. Very basic. Okay, a firewall is required, which will actually make sure that it's legitimate traffic which is entering. It will hit some web servers. Okay, from the web servers, again there will be a firewall. Okay, then it will hit some app servers, then again there will be a layer of firewall over here. Okay, these two firewalls can be same also. There is a way to architect that, but for now you just imagine that there are two different firewalls. Then you will have a database server or servers. Okay, now this entire setup, where you have your front end components and your let's say your backend components, this entire setup is called as a system design. Okay, this is very high level. These are very basic components which are involved in a system design: a front end, internet, URL, internally web servers, app servers, and database servers. I hope I was able to articulate what is a system design. Right, there are many more components, integrations, and other stuff which are part of the system design, which we will understand and learn in the upcoming videos. Okay, so I will go back and I want to explain you one more concept. Okay, which is, I will just go back. How to go back? System design. I will go back to my analogy. There is something called as the samosa shop analogy. There is something called as trade-offs, which is part of system design. Trade-offs is a very important word because whenever you're designing something, in fact, whenever you're implementing something, there are multiple cases or multiple encounters which you will have while designing, where you will get stuck basically. Okay, whether I will be able to set up it in this way or that way, or which is the best way. Oh, this way has a problem, that way has a problem. I'll give you an example what I'm saying. So for example, let's say this guy who's who's cooking the samosas, he's a lefty. That means if he's standing on the left side of the uh, gas stove, then he cannot use his left hand properly, right? I may think of placing him over here on this side. Okay, but then he will have to walk extra space here, right, to actually put the samosas uh, into the plates and then serve it, right? That means that there will be some level of discomfort or some additional time will be spent. Instead of keeping this gas cylinder here, I can keep this gas cylinder here. I can keep the raw materials over here, right? But in that case, there will be long cable which I have to, the gas cable which I have to actually put to this gas stove, right? Then again, that cable can come in between while cooking the samosas. So these are some trade-offs, right? Trade-offs in the sense, basically, uh, you may lose something or gain something by setting up the design in a specific way. That is the meaning of trade-off in a system design. So if you go back to our example, let's say, as I told you, right, that there are firewalls over here. Let's say if I don't put a firewall over here, this is a very bad trade-off, by the way. You should never do that. All incoming connections should have a firewall, and I just keep a web server over here directly exposed. If I remove this firewall from the equation, I can save on cost, but I am losing on security. This is a very crude example and a very bad example, but just to explain you, I am giving you this concept. Okay, let me see if I can just delete this. I can. So then your direct connections will land on the web server, and I may have some level of security where I have a firewall between the web server and app server, but my initial edge level security is now gone. But I have gained some cost because firewalls are costly, by the way, but I have lost on some security. So this is the trade-off which I made. Now this trade-off, you have to keep doing it while you are doing a system design. Okay, so these are some easy concepts which I wanted to explain it to you. I hope it was informative for you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for watching. Thank you. Bye bye.